Now to Decision 2020 and the push for Pennsylvania. According to the newest poll from Monmouth University, Joe Biden has a 13-point lead over President Trump in the Keystone State.
And joining us now is the director of the Monmouth University Polling Institute, Patrick Murray. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
All right, Biden has a clear lead when you ask Pennsylvanians who they support, but when you ask who they think will win, the answer is not as clear. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, Biden is above 50%, no matter how we look at their likely voter models. But voters in Pennsylvania and elsewhere across the country remember what happened 4 years ago when they expected Hillary Clinton to win, and she didn't. So we got an even split in terms of who they think will take Pennsylvania's electoral votes right now between Trump and Biden. And I think part of that is because there's this idea out there that has taken hold that there's this secret Trump vote that's coming out that's not being captured in the polls. And we have 57% of Pennsylvania voters who are saying that they know people in there are people in their communities who are secret Trump voters who are not telling anybody but will come out and vote. And I think that's driving that sense that maybe it's closer than what the polls are looking at, even though we don't have any evidence at all that there was a secret Trump vote in 2016 and there is one today.
Yeah, it's interesting considering what happened 4 years ago. Pennsylvania is known as a swing state, of course. It also has swing counties, specifically those around Philadelphia. Who has the upper hand in those areas?
Well, right now, it looks like Joe Biden does. And these are the swing counties that were decided by less than 10 points 4 years ago. And they run basically from Chester all the way up to Luzerne along eastern Pennsylvania. And this, if you go up to the Northeast, that's Joe Biden's home base where he grew up. And he's ahead by about 10 points there. Now, of course, Hillary Clinton was ahead by 10 points, too, in these areas when we go back this time 4 years ago, and she lost that. So the question is, can Joe Biden hold on to it? It looks a little bit more secure for Joe Biden because there are fewer undecided voters in those areas than there were than 4 years ago. There are fewer voters who are considering voting for a third-party candidate than there were 4 years ago. So it seems a little bit more stable and locked in than it did 4 years ago.
And when you think about 2016, 54% of people said they were surprised that President Trump won Pennsylvania back then. Clinton, of course, leading in many of the polls, as we talked about. And there was a lot of criticism about polling in general about the election. So this time around, do you feel any more confident in the results that we're seeing right now? Do they matter this far out?
Yeah, well, I mean, the results right now are just telling us where things stand right now, and it could evaporate. And we did see Clinton's summer lead evaporate even in Pennsylvania, even though the numbers were still off in the end. But we're more confident now because we found some things that happened in 2016 about college education levels in our polling that we were able to correct, and we found them. We did a lot of polling in Pennsylvania congressional districts in 2018 where we had fixed that problem and saw, it's worked. The other part of 2016 was that we found that a lot of Clinton voters stayed home. They were unenthusiastic about her. They thought she was going to win. This is that surprise that you just mentioned. And they said, my vote didn't matter. And I think this myth that I mentioned about the idea that there's this secret Trump vote out there, combined with what happened in 2016, is why we're seeing a lot more strength in Biden's support right now, because those voters will turn out.
Interesting. Patrick Murray, Monmouth University Polling Institute. Thank you so much. Nice to see you again, too.
Hey, my pleasure.